Welcome to week 6 of this 8-week Stay With Yourself course for creating a soulful and lifelong meditation practice. This is week 6, which is all on befriending ourselves, which honestly we have been doing every week throughout this course, but as I will continue to say, each week builds off the last, and so we've been slowly making our way to this week, which I believe is a very, very pivotal week. So as we have gone into beginning to notice our bodies, our thoughts, our hearts, our emotions, the things that are coming up for us in our meditation practice, the things that are coming up for us in our everyday life, the ways in which we are starting to put our focus on different aspects of our lives, not trying to push anything away, but just shifting into new stories and new narratives. I hope that all of this has felt like a practice in befriending yourself and getting to know yourself and choosing yourself and caring for yourself as you've noticed the beauty in your life, as you've done pleasure stacking, all these things, right? I hope that all of that has been supportive for you and that you're feeling more and more comfortable and at ease with yourself as you've gone through this course. So this week on befriending ourselves, the meditation that we're doing this week is really, really powerful. So I encourage you to start very slowly with this meditation and begin to notice before you even go into this practice. Maybe do these journal prompts before you even do the first meditation. Or think about these questions. Take notes on this video if you need to. But start to ask yourself, what parts of myself really want to be seen? When I first started doing a lot of this work around learning to stay with myself and healing trauma and all this stuff, these weren't the words that existed at the time. There was no catchphrase trauma healing. There was no catchphrase boundary setting. There was no catchphrase called self-care when I started doing this work almost 20 years ago, right? It was all just, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff happening inside of me, and I realize I have no idea who I am, and I haven't been paying attention to myself, and I've been living my life literally looking outside of myself for who and how I should be, and my inner state is being completely dictated by what's happening around me and by how the people around me are feeling, right? Like, again, this is before phrases like people pleasing was a phrase. But that's what was happening, you know? I'd gone to classes for like codependence and adult children of addicts and that kind of thing. And I'd started to realize I'd had these presets in me that I was literally conditioned to betray my own instincts, to betray my own desires, to even betray my own thoughts, my own feelings in order to try to belong. And so this practice of befriending myself was really tender. And what a lot of it is, you know, for me, ended up becoming, again, what is now called inner child healing. So, and that wasn't a phrase at the time either. So if you want some additional support before we go to any farther into this video or into this week, if you want additional support with this week's practices, I have a course on Insight Timer called How to Reparent and Heal Your Inner Child that coincides really beautifully with this particular week of the course. So I encourage you to check that out if you're interested in doing that, or just kind of taking note and going and visiting that course later. And that's just an audio course, not video like this one. However, back to the subject at hand. When I started paying attention to the parts of myself that I had abandoned, the little girl, all different ages, the teenager, the young adults, the part of myself that I betrayed, you know, an hour ago when I didn't act in accordance with a way that's actually true to my truth, right? But because it's a preconditioned response that I have that's unconscious in how I respond to other people, This is all part of this practice of befriending ourselves, of showing up for ourselves and being a strong ally, our greatest friend and ally, right? For ourselves in our lives. So this meditation can be applied to really deep, deep trauma healing. And it can also be applied to like the more, like the minutia of how we betray ourselves every day. And that can be, again, with the self-talk. We talked about that in the ritual and mantra week, that we talk to ourselves in ways, we judge ourselves in ways. So this week could just be for you about continuing to create safe, non-judgmental space for yourself. One of my favorite practices that I have done in my life is I actually started a separate journal for myself to write love letters to myself. So I started this years ago when I was still married and I was feeling a lot of pain in my marriage. I wasn't feeling seen. I wasn't feeling wanted. I wasn't feeling heard. I wasn't feeling engaged with. There's all these things happening for me. And I learned that, looking outside of myself to people who couldn't give me what it is I desired was oftentimes causing me more pain, because I was putting it on other people to take care of me, in a sense. And there's nothing wrong with having people in your life that are there to take care of you, if that's what they're there for. But I started this journal, and say I was having a day or a moment where I was really feeling like I really want to be seen. I want someone to compliment my cute top today. Or I want someone to tell me that they see how hard I'm working and what a good job I'm doing. Or I want someone in my household to thank me for dinner, right? These things. What I would do is I would go to my journal, this journal that was set aside just for writing love letters to myself. And I would say, "Dear Jessica, you look so cute in that top that you're wearing today. It just makes your eyes pop. You're so beautiful. And the dinner you made, you made such a good dinner. Thank you so much. I can tell that you care so much about feeding your family. You did such a beautiful job making dinner. And I know that you're tired." And I would just start saying things like, "I know that you're feeling this way." And I would just start reflecting back to myself what I was feeling. And I would reflect back that I see myself, right, in these letters. And I still have this journal, and I still go to it sometimes to do this practice. So some of befriending ourselves is really just seeing ourselves. Another practice that you can do this week that is also really powerful and very vulnerable, I do this with a lot of my one-on-one clients, I suggest this to a lot of students, is sit down in front of a mirror. I mean, you can stand in front of a mirror. I think there's powerful, like if you have an upright mirror and you can like sit on the ground in front of a mirror, sit down in front of a mirror and stare at yourself. Just eye gaze with yourself. Just look at yourself in the mirror. Look into your own eyes, right? And note, this is your person. This is your person who is looking back at you and that you are looking at right now in this moment. And this practice of just looking at ourselves in our own eyes is really, really powerful. And then if we can combine that with some affirmation, again, of I see you, I love you, I see how hard you are in yourself, and I just want you to know that I love you so much, right? And I see that you do this, and I see this about you, and I appreciate that about you. And start doing these practices, seeing yourself. And because the truth is, you've been there for every experience you've ever had in your whole life. You have. There is no one who knows you better than you. You are your greatest friend and ally. So I know sometimes we want others to understand us, and there are some that will understand us more than others, but there's no one who is there and experienced it exactly like we did. So to become your own greatest friend and ally, and to start befriending yourself and looking yourself in the eyes again and saying, I'm here for you. I've got you. I've got you. I love you. I see you. I appreciate you. And even going back to what we practiced last week, I see how deeply loving your heart is. I see how much you give. I see how much you care. I see you. sometimes we overgive, right? And we overextend ourselves and we give a lot of ourselves because we're hoping that someone will see, and then we're exhausted. So we're exhausted from all the energy that we're putting out that we don't actually have. So we're pouring from an empty cup, and we're feeling disheartened and sad because we don't feel seen in everything that we're giving, right? Which on a certain level is slightly, really, what's the word? A little betrayal of ourselves. When we're giving because we're hoping that someone will see us, we're not giving from our true heart, right? And we're setting ourselves up in a lot of ways. So being willing to back off of how much you're giving to others and start giving back to yourself, start filling your cup, start seeing yourself, start appreciating yourself, start giving yourself the attention that you wish other people would give you. And then when you do give, it's not because you're trying to get anything from anyone. It's because it's coming from a full heart, and you know that you see yourself and you love yourself and you appreciate yourself, and you're willing to go to the difficult places within yourself and reclaim yourself and take yourself back into your own heart. And when you do this, when you're gathering yourself back up from all the places you've left yourself scattered, you begin to feel whole again. And so again, anytime you give, anytime you serve, anytime you offer to anyone else, it's coming from a full heart. So a lot of this week is pulling our energy back in, gathering ourselves back up, reclaiming ourselves from all the places we've left ourselves. An example I used for a long time was, imagine you're holding, a bouquet of helium balloons, right? And there's a bunch of them. And you let them go, and now all these aspects of you have scattered, and you're going and you're pulling all these parts back in, right? I haven't remembered that example in a long time, but that was an example I used to use a lot when teaching this. So I hope that you find that helpful. I hope you find the poetry this week helpful. There's an essay by Joan Didion that I just love. It's all on self-respect. Please read all the materials this week. And one other aspect I forgot to mention, I'm looking at my notes, is part of gathering ourselves back up is also stepping into a bit of self-respect. So Joan Didion's essay on self-respect, after you read that, I want you to start thinking about some people that you admire who really truly respect themselves and kind of stand in their own sense of self. They're not living in this like shame and lack of self-forgiveness. They actually have a lot of self-forgiveness and a lot of non-judgment going on, and they don't live under this cloud of shame and worry about what other people think. Have yourself like an avatar of someone that you can look to, that you could like imagine emulating this week, okay? That's just a little additional practice that you get to add on. I forgot I had added that in my notes, but one of them for me is Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, or in the book, the novel Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd, one of the characters, August Boatwright, love her. Like, love her. She's just like, she's so deeply loving, and she also takes no shit. And she's not someone who would dwell in self-pity. And so those are some examples for me, but find some examples for you. I know that's a little bit random to tag on here at the end, but I definitely think I put that into some of the journaling prompts and the expanded practices, so I wanted to mention that now. Okay, that's a lot for this week. So again, take your time. There's no rush. We're not trying to get to the end of anything, right? This is a lifelong, soulful practice that you are building. All right, I will see you next week. Until next time, may you stay with yourself today and always.